For years, fans believed Tim Allen's charm, humor, and signature grunt made him one of Hollywood's most likable stars. But behind that laugh and warm fatherly persona was a man who carried a deep grudge, one that would quietly shape his career and his relationships for decades. Because while Tim Allen built his fame on making people laugh, there was one person he could never forgive. One co-star who managed to turn admiration into resentment and mentorship into silence. This is the story of how the once unbreakable bond between Tim Allen and his young protege, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, fell apart and became one of television's most quietly painful feuds. Long before the feud, Tim Allen was living the dream every comedian hopes for. After years of stand-up clubs and late nights perfecting his timing, he became the face of Home Improvement in 1991. The show exploded, turning him from a struggling comic into America's favorite TV dad. His role as Tim the Toolman Taylor made audiences laugh week after week, while his family dynamic with Patricia Richardson and their 3 TV sons gave viewers the illusion of a perfect on-screen family. But the truth behind the scenes was far more complicated. Tim Allen wasn't just the star. He was the heartbeat of the show. He pushed for perfection, demanding that every joke land, every line feel authentic. That intensity made Home Improvement the success it became, but it also created tension on set. Patricia Richardson, who played his wife Jill, once admitted that while Tim made her laugh every day, his passion could sometimes be difficult to work with. Still, they respected each other deeply, and the show thrived because of that chemistry. Yet, while Tim was used to steering the ship, he wasn't prepared for what would happen when one of the kids he helped raise on screen started stealing the spotlight. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who played Randy Taylor, was just a kid when the show began, but almost overnight he became a phenomenon. With his sharp wit, charm, and expressive eyes, he became the teen heartthrob of the 1990s. His posters covered bedroom walls, his interviews filled magazines, and his smile won the hearts of millions. For Tim Allen, it was both a point of pride and a source of unease. The fatherly affection he had for Jonathan began to blur with the realities of fame and ego. Allen had worked tirelessly to climb his way up from nothing, and now his young co-star was achieving levels of stardom that even he couldn't control. At first, their relationship mirrored that of their characters, a strong father-son dynamic filled with laughter, advice, and mutual respect. Allen often spoke fondly of Jonathan in interviews, calling him a little adult because of his professionalism. But as Home Improvement continued and Jonathan's fame grew, something began to change. Film studios came calling, offering Jonathan leading roles in movies like Man of the House, Tom and Huck and The Lion King, where he voiced young Simba. Suddenly, the young actor wasn't just part of Tim's TV family, he was a star in his own right. That's when the tension started. The production schedule grew harder to manage, as Jonathan balanced multiple projects. Some days he arrived on set exhausted from other commitments. Tim, ever the perfectionist, began to feel frustrated. To him, the show was a commitment, a family effort that deserved full focus. Watching his young co-star divide his time and energy between Home Improvement and Hollywood began to feel like a betrayal of everything the show stood for. As one crew member recalled, Tim didn't always have patience for that, especially when it affected rehearsals. By the show's 7th season, subtle cracks had widened into something more visible. In interviews, Tim's once paternal tone toward Jonathan began shifting. When asked about the young star's growing fame, Allen's responses became tinged with sarcasm. "The kid's going to burn himself out before he's 20, he said. "I just hope he remembers where he got his start." To most fans, it was just a passing comment, but those who knew the two could sense something deeper brewing. Then came the breaking point. As the show prepared for its 8th season, Jonathan made a shocking announcement. He was leaving Home Improvement to focus on his education. For a show built around family values and loyalty, it felt like a blow. For Tim Allen, it was personal. He couldn't understand why someone would walk away from one of the most successful shows on television at its peak. To him, loyalty was everything, and Jonathan's decision felt like abandonment. Still, the cast wished him well, writing his absence into the storyline by sending Randy Taylor off to Costa Rica for an environmental study program. But when Jonathan's next movie, I'll Be Home for Christmas, hit theaters that same year, Tim's disappointment turned into anger. The young actor who claimed to be stepping away for school was now back in Hollywood promoting another film. In an interview, Tim didn't hide his frustration. "He said it was about going to school, but then he did some films," Allen remarked. "Did he want to do movies or go to school? I don't think he liked that I mentioned it." That single comment said everything. Tim felt lied to and the trust was gone. As the show entered its final season, Jonathan's absence loomed large. While his TV brothers returned for the finale, he didn't. Fans noticed, but behind the scenes the message was clear. The relationship between Tim and Jonathan had broken beyond repair. "I don't think he'd want to return and say goodbye," Tim said later, his tone more wounded than angry. The mentor who once guided a young star now felt rejected by the very person he'd helped raise on screen. After Home Improvement ended in 1999, both men went their separate ways, but the silence between them spoke louder than any interview could. Jonathan withdrew from Hollywood almost entirely, focusing on his studies at Harvard and later Columbia. Tim kept busy with Toy Story, the Santa Claus sequels, and eventually his new sitcom Last Man Standing. Yet when interviewers brought up Jonathan's name, Tim's responses were clipped, his tone uneasy. "We don't keep in touch," he once said curtly before changing the subject. The father-son warmth that had once defined them was gone, replaced by a cold professional distance. For over a decade, neither man spoke publicly about the other. Jonathan avoided Hollywood events where he might cross paths with Tim, and even skipped the Home Improvement cast reunion at the TV Land Awards in 2009. When asked about his absence, Tim only replied, "Jonathan has his own life now." Those who knew Tim well said the subject still stung, that for all his success, he never quite got over feeling betrayed by the one person he thought of as family. Their careers diverged in every possible way. Tim Allen remained the ultimate entertainer, staying loyal to the industry that made him famous. Jonathan Taylor Thomas disappeared into academia, trading red carpets for textbooks and peace of mind. To Tim, it was baffling. "I still don't understand walking away from a successful career to go to school," he said in 2011. "That's just me, though." To Jonathan, perhaps it was the only way to reclaim a sense of normal life. Their paths reflected who they truly were, one man fueled by the spotlight, the other seeking freedom from it. Then in 2013, the impossible happened. After nearly 15 years apart, Jonathan Taylor Thomas appeared on Last Man Standing, Tim's hit show. Fans were thrilled to see them share the screen again. The episode went viral, sparking hope that the long-cold feud had finally thawed. On camera, they laughed, exchanged witty lines, and showed flashes of their old chemistry. But those who worked behind the scenes said the energy was different. "They were polite, even friendly," one crew member recalled, "but it wasn't the same. It felt like two people trying to be professional, not two old friends reconnecting." Still, it was progress. They worked together again briefly, and Jonathan even directed an episode in 2016. But even then, their connection remained surface level, cordial, respectful, but never warm. When Tim was asked about the reunion, his response was careful. "Jonathan's a smart guy," he said. "He's always been wonderful as an actor." Then he went to college and found other interests. It was a compliment, but also a quiet acknowledgement that their relationship would never return to what it once was. Time can dull resentment, but it can't erase disappointment. And for Tim Allen, Jonathan Taylor Thomas represented both. To this day, fans debate who was right: Tim, the mentor who felt abandoned, or Jonathan, the young actor who chose to walk his own path. Maybe both were right in their own way. Fame has a way of magnifying insecurities and testing loyalty, and what happened between them is a reminder that even the strongest on-screen families can fracture when real life gets in the way. In the end, Tim Allen never hated anyone more than Jonathan Taylor Thomas, not because of malice, but because he once cared so deeply. Their story isn't one of villains and heroes, but of two people caught at different crossroads of life, one clinging to the family he built, the other trying to find himself beyond it. And though they've shared polite smiles and short reunions since, the warmth that once defined their bond seems lost to time. Still, their story lives on in every rerun of Home Improvement, where for 30 minutes at a time the world can believe that the father and son who made us laugh were as close in real life as they were on screen. So what do you think? Was Jonathan Taylor Thomas right to leave the spotlight when he did? Or was Tim Allen justified in feeling betrayed? Maybe their story is just another Hollywood reminder that sometimes family, real or fictional, isn't as simple as it looks.